In episode 2, Jen is trying to talk herself up to telling Judy about the cancer, but she ironically gets interrupted by Judy, who wants to make sure everything's all right in the bathroom. When Jen exits, she finds Judy making cupcakes for Charlie because, after all, it still is his birthday. That's when Jen sits Judy down and she says, "We have something to talk about." And Judy says, "I know. They found Steve's body." Jen uses this as an excuse to push the cancer talk to the side. As usual, Judy Hale has found a spin job to make this a positive, that they no longer have to deal with the pressure of Steve's body and the fact that Steve's family gets some closure. When this conversation hits a lull, it does open the door for Jen to tell Judy about the cancer, but instead, she just asks her, "Do you want some wine?" And Judy says, "Yeah, I'll grab some weed." Judy goes into the guest house, but she's shocked to find Charlie sitting there on her bed with a gun. She quickly calls Jen in, and Charlie looks at both of them and says, "Did you kill Steve Woods? I mean, you wrote us goodbye letters, and you were going to leave us here with her after what she did with Dad?" Both women are pretty confused on how Charlie found out that Judy was the one who killed Ted. But what Charlie actually thinks happened is that Judy had an affair with Ted, which in a weird way is a relief for both women. Charlie looks at his mom and says, "All I know is that Steve Woods is dead, and you guys look guilty as hell. So what happened? Why did you burn his car?" Jen starts gaslighting Charlie a little bit, putting on the waterworks, but the story she tells him is that it was the Greek mafia. She burned the car because Steve was involved with them and she didn't want it getting back to her, so she got rid of any evidence. She told the police and they bought it hook, line, and sinker because they know how innocent she is. It's a relief for them because it seems like Charlie does buy this. But when it comes to Judy and Ted, Jen doesn't let Judy tell the truth. She says, "Nope, Charlie, you caught us there. Yep, Judy had an affair with your dad, but you know what? I forgave her because she seemed really regretful about it." Judy goes along with the lie, and it gets Charlie to calm down a little bit and hand over the gun to his mom. Jen goes to put it back in the same safe that she was keeping the bird that she killed Steve with, but the bird isn't there. And when she asks Charlie what happened to it, he tells her, "I gave it back to Henry. It is his after all." And the problem is, Henry's not at the house. He's over at Shandy's, so she's going to have to wait to get that bird back. When both Judy and Jen get back in the house, they start kind of yelling at each other for how they handled that. Judy doesn't appreciate the lie that Jen told because she feels like when Charlie does find out the truth, he's going to hate her even more. But the way that Jen looks at it, this lie is way better than the truth. There's then a knock at the door, and they get a little spooked because it's Detective Perez and Nick. Although they're not there for the Steve Woods situation. They do bring it up, but they're there to get their statements regarding the hit and run. Before they get the statements, they do let them know that Steve Woods' body was found on federal land, which means it's now an FBI issue. They then split up to get the statements, with Perez going with Jen and Nick staying with Judy. Judy doesn't really give Nick much to go on. She's pretty vague. But Nick's worried. He has a hunch that all of this is connected. Steve Woods, the Greeks, her hit and run. So he wants her to keep on the lookout for anybody who looks suspicious, if she might be followed, anything like that. In the kitchen, though, it's a much different conversation between Jen and Perez. Jen asks Perez, "There's got to be something you can do to help me," but she says, "No, I could lose everything. No, you're on your own with this one." But Jen reminds Perez that she tried to do the right thing. She tried to turn herself in, and it was Perez who stopped her from doing so. So Perez is in this whether she likes it or not. And Perez reluctantly says, "All right, fine, I'll see what I can do." Once both police leave, the two women fill each other in on what they were discussing with the detectives. Jen gets pretty close to telling Judy about the cancer, but Charlie interrupts by getting something to drink. And Judy lets him know, "Your birthday cupcakes are almost ready," but he looks at her and says, "I don't want your stupid cupcakes," and walks out. He's still pissed. They then hear somebody pull up in the driveway, and when they go outside to see who it is, it's Lorna in a brand new car for Charlie for his birthday, which doesn't sit well with Jen at all. Judy was planning on buying Charlie that Kia, but this car's way better. Lorna makes mention that Ted would have loved to be there to see Charlie get his first car. And then she looks at Judy and says, "You know, you never get over losing a husband or a father or a son. You wouldn't know." And Lorna has no idea how hurtful that comment is. Judy gets so upset that she walks into the house, and Jen goes after her to make sure she's okay, but she's not. That comment really hurt. It's also not helping that Charlie, not knowing the truth about what happened to his father, is just eating her up. She really wants to tell Charlie the truth. It's Jen, though, that tells her, "Look, I get you want to tell him, but Charlie has to be in the right place, and that's not right now." Jen then gets up to go look for the bird in Henry's room. But as she's going up the steps, she slips and falls and hurts herself, and there's an untimely knock at the door, but this time it's Ben. He's brought a care package for Jen, and when he sees her lying on the floor, he decides to pick her up and take her to her room. Both Judy and Ben start trying to take care of Jen, make sure she's comfortable. Ben tells Jen that he's sorry about the accident. She tells him that she's sorry about Steve. But as for how he's doing, it's still difficult. You know, he had his issues with his brother, but it's always tough losing a family member. He tells both women that, it's weird to say, but I just don't know who I am without him. As they're trying to give Ben a little bit of advice, Henry finally walks in. This is the first time Henry is seeing his mom, so he's a little concerned, but they let him know that she was in an accident and they don't know who did it. A little bit awkward for Ben. So much so that he has to excuse himself into the bathroom, where he just needs to splash some water on his face and look in the mirror. When he does, though, all he can see is Steve's face. He eventually leaves the bathroom and he runs into Henry. Henry tells him, "I'm sorry about your brother. My mom told me, and losing somebody sucks." But it does get easier. He then gives Ben a hug, and he also gives him the bird. Same bird that was used to kill Steve. Later that night, it's finally time to have that uncomfortable cancer talk. But it's actually Judy that brings it up to Jen. Because when Judy was going through Jen's purse to find something, she found the pamphlets, and she figures that it's Jen who has cancer. This forces Jen to break the news to her that, no, I don't have it, I'm fine. It might actually be you. And if there's one person that could spin a cancer diagnosis or the possibility of one, it would be Judy Hale. Even Judy, though, is having trouble with this. It's a complete shock, and she tries to put on a good face, but, it's tough. She then goes downstairs to finish up the cupcakes for the birthday boy. Charlie walks in the room, and when Judy asks to talk, he just blurts out, "How did you guys meet?" Forces Judy to make up a story about meeting him quickly. It happened so fast. It was a one-time thing. Deep down, though, she really does want to tell Charlie the actual truth. At the end of her apology, Charlie grabs a cupcake, so it seems like he's forgiven her. For now, at least. Upstairs, though, Jen is tucking Henry in, and she decides to ask him about the bird and where it is. But that's when he reveals that he gave it away to Ben. And Ben has taken it to a bar and is kind of just drinking by himself with his thoughts. But his phone rings and it's his Uber ride. So he gets up to leave and he accidentally leaves the bird back at the bar. Which is unfortunate because he was being watched the whole time by Nick. You don't know if Nick was tailing him or he just happened to be in that bar, but Nick grabs the bird and keeps it. Thank you so much for checking out this recap. Please consider subscribing to the channel and subscribing to my Patreon. Hit thumbs up if you liked it. Smash that thumbs down button if you thought it sucked. If you left a comment, I don't get back to you. I usually don't check the comments unless they're like a super comment. Also, if you don't see the next video up on the end screen, not to worry. It'll be up in a day or two.